August 31st, 1997, 4:30 p.m. Diana Spencer wakes up on the last day of her life, and the world doesn't yet know that in 7 hours they will lose the people's princess forever. But what happened in those final 24 hours? The real story is far more complex than you think. Sunlight was hitting Diana's face in the imperial suite at the Ritz Hotel in Paris. In the most luxurious suite of the hotel, the world's most famous woman was slowly opening her eyes. But this wasn't a normal awakening. There was an unrest inside Diana, an inexplicable anxiety. Dodi Al-Fayed was still sleeping. As Diana looked at him, she was thinking about the future of this relationship. This romance, which had begun just a few weeks ago, was being followed with great interest by the media. But Diana had other things on her mind. Her children, William and Harry. That morning, at 5 p.m., Diana made her first phone call. The caller was Paul Burrell, her loyal butler. "Ma'am, how are you? The children miss you very much," Paul said. Diana's voice came out tired. "I miss them too, Paul. I'm returning to London tomorrow. I want to spend time with my children." This conversation was the first of many phone calls Diana would make that day. In each one, the same concern existed: her children. Diana held her maternal duties above everything else. Even this vacation in Paris made her feel guilty for being away from her children. At 5:30 p.m., Diana took a shower. Meanwhile, Dodi had woken up and was waiting for a call from his father. Mohammed Al-Fayed was very pleased with his son's relationship with Diana. This relationship brought great prestige to the Al-Fayed family, but it also brought enormous media pressure. When Diana came out of the shower, she learned that Henri Paul had arrived at the Ritz Hotel. Henri Paul was the Al-Fayed's trusted driver. But there was something Diana didn't know. Henri Paul was drunk that day. This fact would play a tragic role at the end of the night. At 6 p.m., Diana began getting dressed. She chose black pants and a white blouse. Simple but elegant. This outfit would be the one seen in her final photographs. As Diana looked at herself in the mirror, she had paused for a moment. She didn't know why, but she had a strange feeling inside. Meanwhile, in London, at Kensington Palace, William and Harry were spending time with their father. Both were asking when their mother would return. Charles had told them Diana would come the next day. 15-year-old William was particularly worried. He had noticed that his mother had been very stressed lately. At 6:30 p.m., Diana went down to the hotel lobby with Dodi. Dozens of paparazzi were waiting outside. Flashes began bursting. Even though Diana was accustomed to this scene, she was particularly bothered that day. "Why can't they leave us alone?" she murmured to Dodi. Trevor Rhys-Jones was the security chief of the Al-Fayed family. He was responsible for Diana and Dodi's safety. But that evening, he noticed the media pressure was much more intense than usual. The paparazzi were as aggressive as always. Trevor understood this wouldn't be a normal night. At 7 p.m., Diana and Dodi left the Ritz Hotel. Their destination was Dodi's apartment on Rue Arsène Housset, but the paparazzi wouldn't leave them alone. A photographer appeared at every corner. As Diana looked out the window, she thought, when will this nightmare end? During this journey, Diana said something important to Dodi. "Dodi, I need to think about how I'll explain this relationship to my children. They are everything to me." These words clearly revealed Diana's priorities. Motherhood came before love. When they arrived at Dodi's apartment, they had to wait outside due to security concerns before entering. The surrounding paparazzi was so intense that a normal entry was impossible. Trevor Rhys-Jones felt the situation was beginning to get out of control. At 7:30 p.m., Diana made an important decision. "Let's go back to the Ritz," she said. "We can't have a peaceful evening in this madness." This decision would completely change the course of that night. If they had stayed at Dodi's apartment, perhaps everything would have been different. When they returned to the Ritz Hotel, Diana looked tired and irritated. The media pressure was affecting her greatly. As she would later tell Paul Burrell, "I can't live like a normal person anymore. Every moment of mine is being photographed." At 8 p.m., Diana called her sister, Sarah Ferguson. This conversation was very special because it was Diana's longest talk that evening. Sarah noticed something different in Diana's voice. "Diana, are you all right? Your voice sounds different," she said. Diana replied, "I'm just tired, Sarah. Tomorrow I'll go home and spend time with my children." During this phone conversation, Diana said something very important to Sarah. "Sarah, if something happens to me, tell my children how much I love them. Tell them I want them to be happy." Sarah found these words strange. "Diana, why are you talking like this?" she asked. Diana simply replied, "I don't know, it just came to me." At 8:30 p.m., Diana and Dodi had dinner at the hotel's Escalating restaurant. But this wasn't a comfortable meal. Flashes were constantly bursting through the windows. Paparazzi had gathered outside the restaurant. Diana didn't touch her food. "I can't stand it anymore," she told Dodi. Claude Roulette, the assistant manager of the Ritz Hotel, observed that Diana and Dodi were very tense that evening. Princess Diana seemed much more worried than usual. She was constantly looking at her watch, looking out the window. He would remember years later. At 9 p.m., Henri Paul came to Diana and Dodi. He suggested a plan. "To get rid of these paparazzi, let's make a decoy plan. While you leave through the back exit, another car can leave through the front door." This plan seemed logical, but no one knew Henri Paul was drunk. Diana approached this plan with suspicion. "Are you sure, Henri? Is this safe?" she asked. Henri Paul answered confidently, "Of course, madam. I've been doing this job for years." But Henri Paul was lying. He had drunk much more than usual that evening. At 9:30 p.m., Diana called William for the last time. This conversation was very short, but very important. "Hello, darling. How are you?" William sensed something different in his mother's voice. "Mum, are you all right? Your voice sounds strange." Diana tried to laugh. "I'm just tired, sweetheart. I'm coming home tomorrow. I missed you and Harry so much." William told his mother, "Mum, be careful. I love you." These words melted Diana's heart. "I love you too, William, more than anything." This was Diana's last conversation with her son. After hanging up the phone, Diana's eyes filled with tears. At 10 p.m., Diana called Paul Burrell once more. "Paul, I'm coming home tomorrow. I want to spend time with the children. Plan something special for them," she said. Paul noticed the urgency in Diana's voice. "Of course, madam. Everything will be ready." Diana continued, "Paul, you know, sometimes I feel very lonely. I don't know what I would do without my children." Meanwhile, Trevor Rees-Jones was worried about security. The number of paparazzi continued to increase. "Tonight is very dangerous," he thought, but Diana and Dodi were determined to leave. At 10:30 p.m., Henri Paul brought the Mercedes S280 to the hotel's back door. This black Mercedes would be the center of that night's tragedy. The car looked luxurious and safe, but the driver's condition was not safe at all. Before getting into the car, Diana paused for a moment. Her instincts were telling her something. "Maybe we shouldn't go tonight," she told Dodi. But Dodi insisted, "Don't worry, Diana. Everything will be fine." These words were ironically the last reassuring words Diana would hear. At 11:50 p.m., Diana said something important to Trevor Rees-Jones. "Trevor, If something happens to me, tell my children how much I love them. Tell them I want them to respect their father." Trevor found these words strange. "Madam, why are you talking like this?" Diana just smiled. "I just want to make sure." At 11 p.m., there was a change in their plans. Henri Paul suggested going directly to Dodi's father's house instead of Dodi's apartment on Rue Ars and Hussaye. This change would extend the route, and a longer route meant more danger. At 11:15 p.m., Diana looked in the mirror for the last time. She applied lipstick, fixed her hair. This simple action would be seen in one of the last photographs taken by the world. Diana wasn't aware she was preparing for that moment, but she was preparing for history. Trevor Rees-Jones told Diana to fasten her seatbelt. "Madam, please fasten your seatbelt." Diana usually wore her seatbelt, but that night, for some reason, she didn't. "It's a short journey, Trevor. No need," she said. This decision could have saved her life. At 11:30 p.m., Henri Paul took the Mercedes keys. His alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit, but no one knew this. Henri Paul appeared confident. "Are you ready? Let's go," he said. As Diana got into the car, she looked at the Ritz Hotel for the last time. This beautiful building was her last safe refuge. After getting into the car, security would end forever. When the Mercedes left Place Vendôme, it was 11:35 p.m. Paparazzi immediately followed them. Motorcycles surrounded the Mercedes. Flashes pierced the darkness of the night. Diana tensely said, "They're going too fast." Henri Paul increased his speed. He wanted to get rid of these paparazzi. But for a driver under the influence of alcohol, high speed was a deadly combination. Trevor Rees-Jones said, "Slow down, Henri." But Henri Paul didn't listen. At 11:45 p.m., the Mercedes entered Rue de Rivoli. Traffic was heavy. Henri Paul was looking for alternative routes. The paparazzi was still following them. Diana was truly frightened now. "Please get rid of them," she told Henri Paul. Diana's thoughts at that moment are a matter of curiosity. Was she thinking about her children, her plans for tomorrow, or was she just focused on the current fear? As she had told Paul Burrell, Diana had been thinking about death frequently lately. "Sometimes I feel like something is going to happen," she had said. At 11:55 p.m., the Mercedes was traveling along the Seine River. Paris was beautiful at this hour of the night. Lights reflected in the river. What was Diana thinking as she looked at this view? Her children in London? Her future dreams? Or did she just want to go home? Henri Paul's behavior was becoming increasingly worrying. He was going too fast and making very sudden maneuvers. Trevor Rees-Jones was concerned about the situation, but it was too late to intervene. The Alma Tunnel was approaching. This tunnel would become a place known by the entire world years later. But that night it was just one of many tunnels in Paris. Diana didn't even know the name of this tunnel, but it would go down in history. At 12:20 a.m., the Mercedes entered the Alma Tunnel. The speed was 105 kilometers per hour. Henri Paul was beginning to lose control. What did Diana think in her final seconds? Did she whisper, "William, Harry"? Or did she silently close her eyes? The crash happened in an instant. The Mercedes hit the 13th pillar. The sound was terrible. Metal was bending. Glass was shattering. The Alma Tunnel suddenly fell silent. Then panic began. Henri Paul died instantly. Dodi Al-Fayed was severely injured and died shortly after. Diana was still alive, but severely injured. First aid efforts began at the crash site. Diana was unconscious but breathing. The time until the ambulance arrived was critical to saving her, but paparazzi continued taking photographs. They were even photographing Diana between life and death. When the ambulance arrived, it took a long time to extract Diana. Great care was needed. Every second mattered. Ambulance driver Philippe Massoni immediately understood that Diana's condition was very critical. The journey to the hospital was slow and careful. Diana's heart was in danger of stopping. Inside the ambulance, doctors were fighting for her life. Diana didn't know about this struggle. She was unconsciously going back and forth between life and death. When they arrived at Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, Diana was still alive. Doctors took her to the emergency room. They operated on her for 2 hours. They tried to restart her heart, but her injuries were too severe. In London, Charles woke up when the phone rang. The voice was very serious. "Sir, Diana has had an accident. Her condition is critical." Charles's first thought was about the children. How would he tell William and Harry? At 4 a.m., the doctors lost the battle. Diana's heart stopped and never beat again. The People's Princess died at age 36 in Paris, far from her loved ones. The news of Diana's death shook the world, but those most affected were William and Harry. 2 children had lost their mother forever. Diana's greatest fear had come true. Her children had lost her. Diana's final 24 hours was the story of a woman whose ordinary concerns began and turned into a universal tragedy. The phone calls she made that day, the words she spoke, the decisions she made, all of it would remain in history forever. And perhaps the most painful part was that what Diana thought about most on that last day was her children. Motherhood was more important to her than everything else. Her final words, her final thoughts were about them. Diana Spencer didn't just die as a mother that night. She became the mother of millions. Her concerns, fears, and love in her final 24 hours, these were the common emotions of all humanity. That's why Diana's death wasn't just the loss of one person. It was the loss of a piece of humanity.